Hey friends, welcome to our first day of our challenges for the week. My name is Shelly Bautista and I am a PBS Kids Early Learning Champion here in Carson, California. Will and I are so excited to have you be a part of this week with us.
As Shelly mentioned, my name is Will Tolliver Jr. I'm coming to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm an early learning champion alongside of Shelly, and we're gonna have a ton of fun this week. So Shelly, tell us what you got.
Well, Will, our friends from Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood will be helping to guide us through the range of emotions that we'll be addressing throughout the week. Daniel Tiger is a character from the land of make-believe in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So we want to talk a little bit about imaginative play. It's an important aspect of a child's learning in which, they can experiment and practice social and emotional skills. Today's challenge will focus on naming the emotion.
That's right. Today is all about putting words to how we feel. And speaking of how we feel, what better way to take inspiration from the legend himself, Fred Rogers, to guide us on how we approach and how we overcome some of the feelings that we're having in our world today. Mr. Rogers once said, "When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary."
Will, with the state of our nation currently battling issues such as COVID, the racial injustices, political policies, and really a lot of social economic inequities, there's so many stresses that carry into our homes. And we as educators really have to brace ourselves as we prepare to take on an array of emotions that our kids could be struggling with. One way that Will and I talked about doing that is really talking about naming our emotions and taking a look at examples for this. So Daniel Tiger actually had a special, and we're going to pull together those compilations of feelings that are happening in his home and hope that you can see that this is a very possible thing that may be happening in the kids spaces that you're working with. So really focus your attention on the language that's being used.
Mom?
Yes, Daniel?
When can we go to the neighborhood carnival? Is it soon? Tiggy can't wait to go.
Oh, remember, my little tiger, there won't be a neighborhood carnival this year.
Grr! No neighborhood carnival? But wasn't that horrific? I miss my friends. And Grandpere. And Teacher Harriet. I feel sad. Yay! Dad's working on his clocks at home again today. That means we can color together.
Actually, Daniel, I may be here at home with you, but I have to focus on my work right now.
I have work to do too.
I'm sorry, Daniel, but I need this space for myself so I can work. Can you please find somewhere else to play?
You don't want to play with me?
Of course I want to play with you, but I can't do two things at once. That's why I feel a little frustrated.
But it's very, very, very hard to wait. Things have been different. And that makes me feel a lot of feelings. Like confused and sad and frustrated. But being with my family and asking questions helps me feel a little better. Maybe you can ask questions too. Even if we're apart or if we have to play differently, I'm so glad I have a neighbor like you. Ugga mugga!
Shelly, what a powerful compilation, and it gives us a lot to talk about when thinking about naming emotions. What are your thoughts?
I think that Daniel does a great job in this special naming his emotions. But in my experience working with our younger kids, I know that they may not always be able to control their emotions and that these triggers may lead to behaviors that really are uncontrollable. So as adults, it's sometimes, we sometimes say, use your words, but our younger kids may not have the words to express themselves. So sometimes it's necessary for us to provide the words that they need to express themselves.
Those words, Shelly, like you mentioned, are so important. And it's so hard to say how you feel. I mean, especially when you're upset or even when you're excited, when your emotions are at a high level. And as adults, we have a hard time talking about our emotions and expressing ourselves. So I can only imagine how our young learners feel doing that. They aren't equipped with the language and the things they need to be able to do that. And I think you hit it right on the head. It's necessary for us as adults to help our kids navigate these things, and most importantly, with the language and the validation so that they can communicate now and in the future.
You're completely right. We can continue to build on these skills and hope that when our kids are older, or these kids are older, they can handle these types of situations. But I think it's also very important to recognize that not all kids have these skills. So when the kids are older and they're still having trouble naming their emotions, um, it's really hard for them to feel comfortable just talking about their emotions in general. So just being patient with those kids who don't have those skills.
This clip from Daniel Tiger is so powerful and so loaded. And I think there's a lot of things to think about. And I know that we have perspectives, but I'm really interested in what our friends who are watching have to say. So Shelly and I came up with some reflection questions for you all watching so that you can join the conversation. We have a few questions that you'll see on your screen. We're wondering, what other triggers do you anticipate? What range of emotions are similar to those you noticed in the video? How are the responses the same or different in these episodes from the ones that you experience in your classrooms? And what words and phrases do you use when talking about emotions? Shelly, these are some big questions. Can you share with our friends watching how they can share their thoughts around them?
Yeah, well, keeping in mind that the at home learning is something that a lot of us are doing, Will and I wanted to give you a place not only to leave your reflections, but give you a fun and easy idea on how you can have your kids like reflect. So, we pulled this idea actually from our previous virtual professional learning week titled Distance Learning Strategies for K through 12 Teachers. And you can find this on the PBS Kids Learning Media website. Um, Today and for the next three challenges, we'll be using Flipgrid to share our thoughts. And here are a few ways that you can access the Flipgrid. In the slide, click the image, or you can access the website by typing in the URL into the search bar. Lastly, you can use a device to scan the QR code. So I really wanted to share with you what this might look like in the classroom. So here's an example of one of my past students who shared his reflections on Flipgrid as well.
Hi guys, I really miss you a lot. At recess, I want to play with you, and I've been wanting to play with you.
Now that we've had the chance to look at this work we're delving into from the perspective of our students, we can really start to dig into the strategy of naming the emotion. Really understanding that the nonverbal communication is a way of our kids expressing to us their need for support. In validating a child's feelings, it's really important to help them name the emotion they're feeling, to provide them with the vocabulary so that they may begin to build those self-awareness and self-management skills. Let's help them put words to their feelings so that they may in turn communicate with us. Focusing on the feeling and not the negative behavior, really without judgment, helps to show your support.
That takes a lot of work and support for us as educators. And Shelly and I wanted to help you out by supporting you all and guiding you through some of that work. So in order to do that, we'll be using a Padlet. And Padlet is a sharing app where you can compile resources, articles, games, images, whatever you can find, and be able to share it with community members, families, kids, or even other teachers. So this is a really cool app that we will be using today and in our next two challenges.
In the slide, click the image, or you can access our Padlet by typing in the URL into the search bar. Lastly, you can use a device to scan the QR code.
Today, we'd like to challenge you to dive a bit deeper into a child's perspective as you explore the tools for naming emotions. Here, we shared some useful resources, including songs, books, device applications, and sample lessons that can help you feel supported. So when you scroll down on the column titled Name the Emotion, and depending on your needs, you can feel free to explore these resources. Really think of this as a take what you need and leave what you don't. You may also share your favorite resources by clicking the plus sign at the end of the column. Wow, I really hope that you were able to gain some insight on this Padlet on how you can move forward in supporting your kids through their feelings.
In today's challenge, you'll also create a tool for your kids to help them identify how they're feeling. We can do this as teachers by making anchor charts. So what you're going to do is put different feelings using drawings, pictures of yourself or your students, and add their faces to that chart, and then add the name of how they're feeling right next to it.
So Shelly and I wanted to give you some tools so that you can make your own. Here's a little template that you can use, or if you're feeling creative, you can go ahead and use your imagination to mock up your own. So don't forget, the cool part about this is that we'll be able to see each other's work. So don't forget to add your chart, your feelings chart, to Padlet. And remember, you do that by clicking the plus sign in the column of the artifact section of Name the Emotion.
And you know what? These anchor charts can also be used as daily virtual check-ins with your kids. You can extend the activity by doing several things. You can list some scenarios that happen throughout the school day, like waiting for your turn to speak. I really want you to challenge you to think about some virtual scenarios that might happen, and then talk about those scenarios and the feelings that your kids might have during those times. Saying sometimes it helps, to say how you're feeling. And then practice naming those feelings by role playing with each other, or, for me, the younger ones, it helps by using dolls and imaginative play. You can, use sentence starters like, I feel blank because blank. And that really just models and role plays how, your kids can use this tool in your space by, using a pointer to point at the chart and say how you feel.
Shelly, I think those are all great ways to extend the activity, and I'm sure educators have some of their own ideas. And that's just a point I want to mention today is please, please, please don't forget, we want to hear from you. Use our Flipgrid. You can also respond to someone else's video. So if you get inspired or have an idea or a continuation, please feel free to respond to people's videos. And Shelly and I will be on there as well, giving our opinions. So we hope that you share and use our Flipgrid.
All right, so we are coming to an end here on challenge number 1. We hope that you had a lot of fun from today's challenge and that it's given you a lot of tools to help you and your young scholars navigate these unprecedented times. And we'd really like to leave you with some inspiration from the esteemed Fred Rogers. There's no normal life free of pain. It's the very wrestling with our problems that can be the impetus for our growth.
Thank you, Shelly. Again, thanks to you all for watching today. We hope that you'll continue to learn and grow with us over the course of the next week. And remember, same time, same place here. My name is Will Tolliver Jr. at Shelly Bautista. We're logging out. See you later.